So hello, today I'm in Willingale Airfield in Willingale, Essex, England. I'd like to talk to you about the history briefly of this old airfield, and we're going to look around and see what we can find today, what is still in existence. So it's a pretty nippy day in December now, and we just had a bit of frost which have disappeared. The sun's been up. So let's start off by looking at this old pond. Now, I got a feeling that this would have been used by the airmen themselves, if I'm not mistaken. And the reason I say that is because if we pan around past these beautiful trees, in the distance is what I believe would have been their headquarters at the time. And we should take a closer look from the road itself. So I'm just going to pan around and I just want to show you the concrete road, which is a perimeter road, I believe. So it goes straight up here. This is where the pond is, and if I'm not mistaken, this would have been the access to their headquarters, the tower type structure, and then the perimeter road continues off all the way. So Willingale Airfield, also known as RAF Chipping Ongar, was built in 1942 by the US Army 831st Engineer Battalion. This unit built 3 concrete runways and a perimeter road in only 89 days. So it's a real credit to their skill and determination. So now we'll take a walk up the old perimeter road itself. So looking at the actual base itself, or the headquarters, the owner kindly allowed me to take these clips for the film I'm making. So what we're looking at is the main building where the operations would have been organised and planned from. So now this is a private dwelling, but what we can see, he's pointed out a few things which I wouldn't have known. So this road that we're on now is one of the main access roads, so the jeeps would have pulled up here, and we have a front door which is just up there, and I'll show you in a minute. And these 2 concrete platforms here would have been for the Nissan huts, so we'll have a look. So this would have been one Nissan hut here, and the next one would have been further up. You can still see the original steps. And this would have been the second Nissan hut. Now if we pan around to that small building there, this was in fact the bomb-proof structure that was built to contain all the armaments for the aeroplanes. And the front door is still the original entrance for the operations room. So we've left Bomber Command, and we're now following the sort of access road. Now, From June 1943, the US 387th Bombardment Group medium bombers would arrive here from Tampa Bay, Florida, USA. The American airmen had been training with the B-26 bombers in Michigan, and the 56 combat craft, or the aircraft, left from Maine, and the ground crews boarded the Queen Mary ship from New York to arrive to their new airbase right here in Willingale. Now, the 387th saw their first bombing mission on the 15th of August 1943, and they were to knock out into industrial targets deep inside Germany. During the winter of 1943, the airmen spent a fair amount of time targeting the V-1 rocket launch sites. And during this period, bombing missions also concentrated on destroying the German Luftwaffe, hitting air bases in Leeuwarden and Venlo in the Netherlands. You could just make out one of the buildings, I guess, from that period. Now, during the 8 months of operations from Willingales, the US Air Force conducted 204 missions from here. The airmen, being close to the tiny village itself, undoubtedly made good use of the Bell Inn and the Maltster's Arms. And the Green Man Inn. Now, if you do come here for a walk, please abide by the walking routes and the footpaths, because this is private land. But you can walk around the perimeter. So what we shall do now, the base is down there, we shall head towards the woods, which I believe goes through to the road that connects up to Willingale. As I'm walking through, I found some interesting footprints, and these are probably from the engineers who built this run, or this path. If we have a look, there's some more here. Remember, if they built this in 89 days, they certainly would not be hanging around for detail. And you've got two there, and look at that one. So this fella's really gone for it. He's gone walkabout all the way across. Guess he had a laugh about it down the pub after. Look, where's he going? I found a full sort of width section of road here, and I paced it out. It's 25 foot wide. So now we're going to walk down towards the gate, and this is where the memorial is. Okay, so we've left the farmland and Willingale Airfield, and now we're onto a small lane which goes off to Willingale. So if you used to go down this lane for a short distance, guessing half a mile, no more than that, you'd be in Willingale Junction where the village starts. So here we have the memorial. Oh, can't find the gate, here it is. So this was actually opened or unveiled this year, not long ago, a couple of months I think. Now when you think there were around 2,000 men from the 387th group, divided between the ground crews, the headquarters company and 4 bombardment squadrons, it must have been very busy here indeed. Now the sun's finally cooperating with us. And I'm guessing this must have been one of the old hangars, perhaps, I don't know. So now we've walked all the way back to the headquarters. So in the background you might be able to hear gunshots, so we've got shooting season and also tractors cutting a load of brambles and bushes for the hedgerows. Now I did read that each of the 4 squadrons painted their propeller spinners or prop spinners and propeller tips in different colours to distinguish themselves, and each squadron would keep half of their aircraft operationally ready whilst the other half would be on standby or have maintenance carried out. So I've made it back to where I started at the old pond. If you look, you may find some remnants of the past here. I've seen a few of these dotted around. Like Willingale today is made up of a collection of beautiful farms. We should have a look at the village a little bit later. But these farms can date back 500 years or more. Now I'm just going to follow the public footpath and take you to the last part of the walk. So now once again we're following one of the old concrete roads which have been used by the jeeps, and as we go around this corner you will see one of the original Nissen huts. Now by May of 1944 the 387th had turned to destroying bridges, coastal batteries and marshalling infrastructure in preparation for Normandy. Now on D-Day itself, the B-26 bombed the German Wehrmacht infantry and grenadier battalions along the headland of Utah Beach. Now in July of 1944, the 387th moved their base off to Hampshire, also in England. Now the history of the base did not end there, far from it. For in September, the US 61st Troop Carrier Group would use Willingale Air Base to launch their C-47 airborne paratroopers during Operation Market Garden, and many more vital operations. In April 1945, the keys were handed back to the RAF and became a teaching technical training wing. Now after the war, RAF Willingale became a flying club, finally closing in 1948, I believe. Now today it's all about the agriculture and the farms that use it once more. So let's go and have a look inside. Now this is many of them this size, and I believe a lot of the farmers after the war would have taken these and reassembled them on their own lands. So if you drive around, you can more likely see a few dotted around. Now the massive T2 hangars were dismantled and re-erected at Willingale Airfield, and if you pass by on the M11 motorway, you will still see one or two. In fact, if you're coming from Stansted Airport and you're going towards London, you will see them on the left-hand side. So keep an eye out. As of 2020, Fifield Flying Club still use a section of the airfield for their planes. Now, just making a note of these bollards, I have seen them dotted around, so I've got a feeling these are from that period. And if you do a bit of investigation online, you can still see some of the plans and like an aerial photograph, and you can still see, you can find this on the map, because this shows where one of the huts, the Nissan huts, were positioned. Now also, if you look on the map or the plan, you'll see these sort of half circular shapes. And I'm just going to lift up the camera as far as I can. Now I guess these were designed so that traffic could proceed here, and then vehicles could just park up or come around and turn around and come back. And you find these all over the place. So a small side note, during World War II, East London suffered greatly during the Blitz with the bombing. Now the rubble was used as hardcore to build Willingale's runways, or the foundations. Now during the mid-1960s, the runways and hardcore were broken up, but this time they were used for the foundations of the A12 at Brentwood in Essex, not far from where I live. Now we should look at Willingale itself. So here we are. Willingale's been described as a village with 2 churches in 1 churchyard. So here we have St Andrews, which is 12th century. And next to it, St Christopher, which is 14th century. This was the Bell Inn during World War II, and it was closed in 1988. This is from the 16th century, by the way. This old pub, 1650, called the Green Man, was opened during World War II. It's now a private residence. This is the Maltster's Arms, or it was the Maltster's Arms, and it was a very popular venue for the US Airmen of the 387th Bombardment Group and also the 381st Engineering Group. And there's some pictures online of this old pub with soldiers outside. So let's have a look inside St Andrews. So remember, this was the parish church of the Airmen. This church is open daily. Just take off my cap, my hat. Very noisy tractor outside now. So what we're looking at here is a doorway that's made of Roman brick. So it's likely to be 1,700 years old. Let's have a look. So if we look over here, so on this table just by the door, this display goes into great detail about the airbase itself. We shall look at the graffiti in a minute. So there's a plan here which goes into detail about the actual airstrips and the concrete roads, Willingale. Okay, I'm going to have a closer look at this map. I'm dragging the camera across the glass. So we can see numbers 1, 2 and 3 runway or airfield, whatever you call it. Now this is a more detailed plan. I've now moved it over a little bit. See, it's vast. Parachute stores, look at that. Man workshops, you couldn't say that nowadays, could you? Okay, we're carrying on down. Bomb site stores, latrines, RAF, women's RAF, incendiary bomb stores, smoke bomb stores, fused and spare bomb stores. Wow. Site 3, mess site 1. Showers officers and sergeants. Gives the amount of showers there. Airmen. See, just as it is today, keep them all separate. Non-commissioned officers. Wow, it's so complicated. So it's 2,000 men more or less. Ablutions, just a washroom. Here. Again, everything's split up. Oh, this one, ablutions. So you've got the sergeants and the airmen. Into number 12 quarters. So some of the photographs, you get an idea of the small building there. The airmen having a bit of R&R with the ladies from the village, I guess. Looks like they've got their own band. It's not impossible considering there's 2,000 of them and they'd have hobbies and so on. So got bicycles, one way getting to the village here and around the base, I guess. An aerial photograph of the airfield. Some of the airmen standing in front of a B-26 at Danta. Fair size aircraft. Now this would be inside the headquarters, the control tower. So we shall see what else is here. It's getting a bit dark now, but I'm going to fight on. So here we have a model, the B-26. On the wall. So this is dedicated to the 387th, but it also shows the 4 different, I can't think of the name at the top of my head, it's divided into 4 type of groups. Now each of these would have their own insignia and they've obviously got their own number, and their colour would go onto the front of the propeller cones. And same again, you can see these. I guess if you do some research you'll find these motifs on the side of the planes. Now if we pan around to this corner, we have some pamphlets which are much of interest. So if we have a look, So this goes into detail about the base. And then you get a map as well, and it actually shows you in red, I think, where it still exists. And also this pamphlet is very good. This is really good for a visitor. So it will give you a diagram of the area, and it will show you the walking route, the footpaths and the pubs that used to be and so on. And then it will go into detail about the history of each one. And there's even a postcard showing what it used to be like. So we should walk through now. We should walk up to Chancel. Now, as you can see, Christmas is fast approaching, so the decorations are out. Now, just around the side of the altar, we have the sedilia, which is a seating area here. Now, I'd just like to show you something up here. So one of the airmen, MD, Mike Delta, 1944, the USA Army Forces. Not sure if this is connected to the base, 1958, so it's long after. So just beneath, we've got some ancient graffiti, so the airmen are doing nothing new. This is 15th century. You can see a crossbow in the left-hand corner, and that is a bishop, archbishop, I believe. It's 15th century. And a lot of crossbows. So I guess this could be Tudor period, I'm not sure. So this gives you a view of the altar. So the airmen may have come up here for mass. Now this altar is actually made of one solid piece of stone. It's 177 million years old. And it has 3 consecration crosses put into it. Now we shall go outside. So if you're wondering why the lights are not on, I can't see any, and I'll explain outside. So St Andrews today is part of the church's conservation trust, so it's basically in their care. And this trust cares for over 300 churches, formed in 1969. So I hope you enjoyed that, and thank you very much.